Yo, what's up? Volen here, in pursuit of art. Loads of hair. Merry Christmas. I'm doing another 5-minute video before the bus leaves without me. It's not even 5 minutes anymore. What I want to talk to you guys today about is whether you should use the color picker or not. Now, I got that question on a video just now, so I thought I'd answer it right here for everybody. Why it's a weird question is because it implies things that it sort of doesn't say. Like, why would you use the color picker in the first place? If you're super experienced, if you know what you're doing, you'd use it to save time, right? So in the same way that like all the masters might have used camera obscura and whatever else they would have used to, since they could draw and do everything, they would use these tools to save time, right? So they would use something that's almost like a photographic image to trace on. So they would like sit in this little darkened room, and then light would come in, their subject would be out there, and then their subject would be in a way just projected onto a wall in front of them, and they would trace. Now, is that a big deal? Well, to some people it is, to some people it's not. What matters in the end? Is it the work that was produced? Is it who did it? Look, if you're no good, right? If you are still learning, you will not fool anybody, okay? You can trace over photos, you can color pick all you want, you can do all that. But when it gets time for you to invent a tiny little bit or change a tiny little thing, you wouldn't be able to because you don't get the principles. Now, this is not, I'm not trying to, slander anyone, or I'm not trying to say that you should do this or you shouldn't. That's not what it's about. And I'm saying that because I've done it too. When I started learning to draw and doing all that stuff, I didn't start with that. I started with photography because I thought if I have great images to start with, I could do awesome things on top of them. Well, it didn't work. I could start with great images if I bought a super expensive camera, but I would still suck a lot, and everyone would be able to tell, apart from people that don't know anything about art. And it's not even about who could tell and who couldn't tell. That doesn't really matter. What matters is that you become a person who is knowledgeable, who is sought after by others, so that you can contribute value to them by explaining the process you went through, the long, laborious, shitty process, very oftentimes, that you had to go through over a period of a number of years to become the new person that you are now, who is able to do complex things, think of complex problems, and actually be able to produce complex work. Fact is, you might have great ideas in your head when you're starting, but you cannot get them out. And you can't get them out because your tools are not developed enough. Now, you might say, is it okay to color pick? Well, I'll say this. If you are learning about color, why would you color pick? What would that teach you? Would it teach you that the color is there for you to just grab, sort of cheat in a way, a quick cheat? Or will you actually be the person who takes time to study the complexity of light interaction? Do you know how much more fun it is to actually just sit there, not produce any work for most of the time, but just study? You know, you don't have anything great to show at the end of the day, but you know how much of it just registered in here. You know that you might not be able to show someone, like you don't have an external object that someone can see, like, yes, Johnny, you did very well today, but you have stuff that you've just built in your brain that day. You know that the next day you wake up, you're like, I can see new stuff. I remember when I first started, I'm going to miss my bus. When I first started, I would like, and up until recently, I would have almost like this Neo Matrix type feeling where I would just do something and do it over and over and over a period of a week. Just immersion. Just like every day I would do one thing over and over and over again. Because I didn't know how to learn is one thing. So I would just have to figure everything out. I would do more than I have to get to a point where I at least know that I'm sort of getting it. So I would almost have like this feeling of like Neo. Like I would just wake up in the morning and I'm like, I can do this now. I couldn't do that yesterday. I feel different. You know, I could look at stuff and it looks different. I remember the first time I was just here in my kitchen and I was looking at this pot, just like this reflective pot. And I could, for the first time, I didn't just see the pot with just different things on it, and I would just see everything as the pot. You know, all the reflections, my brain would just interpret as this is one object and this is the pot. I could actually see, okay, this is a darker green, this is a lighter green. I could see the pot with just shapes of color on it. It was like the first time that my brain stopped looking at the world in one way and just enabled me to see it in another way. So why would you color pick? Are you saving time? Are you someone that's already good and you just need to get the color palette? Yeah, that's fine. Why would you care? You already know how to do it. Are you a beginner who's so desperate to produce work like the work that you see in others that you would do anything to get there? Well, that was me. I still feel like that sometimes. I started later. I have many people to compete with. I have this feeling of I might never be able to do it. But you know, it doesn't really matter. Because when you actually take time to study the hard stuff, you become the person that can do the hard stuff, as opposed to someone who's given a problem that is just slightly above their level. And since they did not figure out how to work with complexity, you are stumped as to what to do and you're not really sure how to progress. Art teaches you not only about color and value and shapes and all that stuff, it teaches you how to solve complex problems. One of the best things about art is that it makes you want to explore other stuff. And why I've had this open for so long, and I'm just going to show you, just on the issue of color picking again. What I probably took about a month to do is that I started and I would just study shapes. So I would just have photographs, and first I started with value because my brain still could not understand just how it works. I could not basically believe that all it takes is just to match lightness and darkness and then you just get an image. So my brain, anytime you identify something that like just doesn't quite click, then that is something you need to work on. That's like a kink in your brain, in your understanding, that you need to iron out. So my brain couldn't get that all you have to do is match the shapes, match the lightness, then you have a picture. So I did value studies like this or like that. So they're not great. It doesn't matter. I'm not showing them to anyone. I'm showing them to you so you see the process. But those are not finished works. Those are practice works. So figure out what it is that you're working on. Figure out what's important. After value, now came color. So then when I was doing these, I was realizing all the time the importance of simultaneous contrast. The fact that if I pick the color that I thought was the color, when I put it in context with other colors, it's the completely wrong color. Obviously. So then I will have to pick yellows and oranges for grass that I thought was green, right? So what are you doing when you are color picking? Are you a pro? Are you just doing this to save time? Then it's okay. You are actually using the color picker then because you are having a more complex thought in your head, which is, what is the scene? What am I doing? You're not concerned with the basics of, is this the right brush, or is this going to produce the right color effect? You are thinking so far beyond that color picking is not even an issue. You are doing it because it's a part of the scene that you are setting, but you're not thinking of color. You are thinking of higher value at that time, which would be the story. Now, if you're someone learning about color, why would you color pick? What would that tell you? It would tell you that if you manage to find the picture with the right color, you would be able to reproduce that effect, but you would be constrained to the reference, right? You would always need to have something available. You would not be learning higher principles. You would not be internalizing what it takes to produce the effect that you want to do. So, more. These could be mood. They could be just seeing how things change. Like, look at this. Look at how the grass is really no grassy color. Like, it's mostly just desaturated browns or very saturated browns. Very strange for grass. Look at this one. The sky's all yellow. What's up with that? Then you keep going. There's a flower. There's a bokeh in the background. Like, why does that happen? Study lenses. Study all that stuff. Look at the color. Why does this happen? Look at the reflection, the Fresnel reflection in the water. Why does this happen? Get some more books. Do some more studies, right? I'm not saying this to be stern or anything like that. I'm saying it because I understand. Now look at this. I'm going to miss the bus. Look at this and how close it is, and then just look at the one from, let's say, 2-3 days ago. Look at this. Values don't match. Colors don't match very well. Look at this one. Just 3-4 days later. Couple studies later. Much closer. What happened? My brain changed. Okay? And more of them. I remember this one as though it was yesterday. I remember the epiphany of sort of like, I just had to put the lighter color, just highlight to find the whole form. Now, would I have learned that color picking? Possibly, if that's what I was looking for. But it all depends on why you're asking the question and what you're doing at that particular time. Okay? Spend the time, do it the right way. If you are learning about color, Learn about color by going about it the hard, long way about it. Don't go for the end result. It's not important. It doesn't matter what you have to show. It matters what you've learned through that day. Because ultimately what happens is that you build on days and days and days of having learned important things. And then after enough of those days have amassed, you can produce something awesome. Otherwise, if you just rely on crutches and on constant outside information and do not develop your memory and your understanding of higher concepts, you will always be a beginner. That's why people can go to the gym for 10, 15 years and still look like a beginner. I am sort of one of those people. After 15 years of training, I should have probably not fit in the screen right now as I'm recording. Okay, I have to go. I love you all. Goodbye.